only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine.
Times I fail, still your mercy remains. And should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond all faith. and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond all faith. And the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out, everlasting, your light will shine when all.
Hello, my name is Doug Sharp, and I will be the host today for the National Leadership Briefing. Thank you for joining us today. It is January, and we are starting a new year, and I hope you are ready for an exciting year ahead. There are just so many opportunities for us to exercise our influence, to be heard, to participate, to engage. In 2020, I am going to be so excited all year. I will do my best to keep it kind of under control, but I'm telling you, I was coming apart at the seams over Christmas and New Year here, just thinking about the opportunity that I was going to have to get together with you again here today. So let's take a look at, we've got an absolutely jam-packed day today. We're going to be with you for 1 hour and 1 hour only. That is my commitment to you. For those of you who are new to the briefing today, I want you to know that this briefing is absolutely predictable. It is something you can count on. If you are considering referring somebody to the briefing, which we're going to be talking about later today, if you're referring someone to the briefing, I want you to have absolute trust that you are fully confident that what's going to happen here today is predictable. There's no one's going to go flying off the edge or anything and taking you places where it's crazy. No, I want you to have confidence that you know what is going to happen here today. So a big part of that is that we get you started right at the proper time, right on the top of the hour, and we end at the top of the hour. 1 hour maximum only. Now, and as far as what we're going to cover today, wow, it's exciting. What we're going to cover today, I just want you to know, we're going to definitely cover the 4 pillars. We always do. Remember what they are. We believe here at the National Leadership Briefing that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. We also believe that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number 3 is that the policies and laws that are passed and enacted by civil government definitely must take care of the needs and the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number 4, that it is inappropriate for civil government to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. So that means spending money today on us that our children are going to have to pay for in generations to come is inappropriate fiscal policy. And we are gathering around the opposite position here at the National Leadership Briefing. So that's the first thing we're going to cover today, is a review of the 4 pillars. The second thing we're going to do today is we are going to focus on the things you need to know. We're just coming back off of the holidays, and there's a lot of news and everything flying around, and there's lots of changes going on. Well, we're going to put on the blinders today, and I'm going to take you to a place and show you only the things that you need to know in 2020 on the road ahead. I'm not going to, no frills today, no fluffy stuff. So you're on the right briefing if you are someone that likes the meat and then the potatoes after that. But it's definitely a meat day today. Okay, the next thing we're going to be covering today is we're going to be, as part of the need to know, is I'm going to be revealing for you, as part of the need to know strategy for today, the Max Influence Plan for 2020. It's called the Max Influence Plan for 2020. You know that we're always talking here at the National Leadership Briefing about maximizing the degree of influence we have in the decisions of politics and civil government, and the maximizing the influence we can have in society and culture. And there is definitely a counter plan out there at work to actually keep us from doing that. So we're going to review the Max Influence Plan for 2020. We're also going to be revealing or unveiling something called Operation Engage. Operation Engage is something we're going to be launching here immediately, and we're going to tell you about that today. Now, we can't tell you everything about it today because we're going to unveil it officially in the next briefing, but I want to foreshadow it for you because it is really exciting what we're doing on the road ahead. So that's what we're going to cover today. And also, we've added a new piece at the end here where every single briefing now we are going to be introducing a book. I want to actually share when I see somebody that does good work out there and produces a piece of literature that I think might add value to you in what you're doing in your sphere of influence, I want to be able to come on and say, hey, this is just a great book for you to consider picking up. I'm going to send you a link for it after, but just so you know, it's not going to be my book. It's going to be somebody else's book. I'm not promoting my own stuff here. I'm promoting the people who are doing the job out there, and I just want to let you know who that is. So that's what we're going to do today. But the first thing we've got to do is, before we get to any of that, which is, by the way, going to happen in the boardroom, as you know, is I need to address the elephant in the room. There is something that has come up over the course of this last little while that has the potential to be a distraction from what we are doing here at the National Leadership Briefing. I have made a commitment to you that I am going to do everything I can to increase the awareness and the degree of influence that the 4 pillars has in your sphere of influence. And I told you that I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to walk that road with you, and I'm going to train you, and I'm going to encourage you all the way along. And that's not going to change here at the National Leadership Briefing. But there is something that's happening out there that's kind of starting to encroach upon what we're doing here at the briefing. So I want to address it with you now so that we're completely transparent moving forward. Okay, there's been a lot of people out there who have gotten in touch with me since December the 12th, when Andrew Scheer stepped down as leader from the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, that stepping down of Andrew immediately launched an opening for leadership for the Conservative Party of Canada. And I appreciate, it's very kind of you, the folks that have been getting in touch with me and saying, Doug, you know, we know you've been activated in the party for a long time. We know that you've got lots of history there and lots of experience working with those people. And Doug, you know, you're always telling us that you should be mobilized within your sphere of influence and looking for those opportunities to advance the awareness and degree of influence that the 4 pillars has within your own sphere of influence. And Doug, that is your sphere of influence. People have told me that, and they've gotten in touch with me. And I've actually said, thank you very much. And in the beginning, I dismissed that, and I realized, I'm sorry, that's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do, to say thanks so much and dismiss it as just say that's not for me and just move on. So I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do, is I'm going to address that with you right now. We're going to get this thing out on the table, and I'm going to suss it out with you a little bit, not taking a whole bunch of time, but I want you to know that this is where we're at, and I'm going to make a commitment to you moving forward. So this is the reality of the situation. It is true that 20 years ago, when I first came to faith here in Canada, I first came to faith, I was sitting in a church. Somebody got up, or it turned out to be a real good friend of mine, ended up being a real good friend of mine, stood up in church one day and said, you know what? You should participate in the next electoral opportunity there is, and that is voting in, and I was in Calgary at the time, you need to vote in the mayoral race in Calgary and participate and vote. And for some reason inside of me at that moment in time, I just knew that I was supposed to dedicate much of my life, for the rest of my life, to encouraging people to participate and vote at election time. And that's where it started for me 20 years ago. Right shortly thereafter, I actually cast my very first vote in my life. I had never voted for anything before that time, but I just felt like, look, if I'm supposed to encourage people to vote, I better learn how to do it myself. So I got out there and I did it, and I voted in that very first election. Shortly thereafter, I became activated within a political party, because the advice that I got from the people around me is that you're supposed to find a party that best represents your views and values, and then you should actually join that party and get involved and try and work with the party to try and advance the things that you believe in as a person of faith. And I've been doing that ever since, and I've been doing that within the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, you know that we are a non-partisan a piece of apparatus here. We serve the church, and it's really important that we actually maintain that nonpartisan stance here. But in my own personal life, I felt that if I was going to be encouraging people to do something and join whatever political party, that I was actually doing that myself, that I was actually walking the walk and talking the talk. So I joined the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, pardon me, I should correct that, because I actually joined the Canadian Alliance, which is the legacy party of the Conservative Party of Canada, which then became the Conservative Party of Canada. So what happened was, I have been activated in politics for a very long time, and that is my sphere of influence. True. Now, just to give you an idea, I want to run by these things, because I don't want there to be any gray area here. These are the things that I have done in the last 20 years. I've volunteered in every federal election campaign, door knocking, putting up signs, taking down signs, making phone calls, handing out pamphlets, all of those things. I've been elected over the course of the last 20 years. I've been elected and served on 11 electoral district association boards for both originally the Canadian Alliance and then the Conservative Party of Canada. I've chaired or co-chaired 17 electoral district association board committees, including membership committee, fundraising, policy committee, which I still chair today, and then the convention committee of the Conservative Party. I've been elected and served 8 times as a member of the executive of the committees of riding association boards. I was elected and served as the party members in the electoral district. Like there's these boards in the electoral districts, and I've been elected and served as the president of Stephen Harper's, Preston Manning's, and Stockwell Day's riding association boards. I've been elected and served on the national council of the legacy party of the Conservative Party of Canada, and I served a 3-year term as a national councillor from the province of Alberta. Now, during that time, I was with the Canadian Alliance. I was on the national council. We actually worked on the merger of the two parties. That was the time when we were on the board of the National Board of Canadian Alliance with Stephen Harper. He was the leader of the party, and we worked with the Progressive Conservative Party, bringing together the two parties to form the Conservative Party of Canada. And actually, one of the most fun I had at that time was I actually got to work on a committee of National Council that helped merge the two policy books together for the two parties to join to actually create the first policy book of the Conservative Party of Canada. So I did that back then in 2003 or 2002 and 3. And then while I was also with the Canadian Alliance, I had the opportunity the president of the party actually said, said, are there any councilors here that would like to put the motion forward to to send the notice out to the members of the Canadian Alliance and asking them to vote up or down whether they wanted to actually merge the party together with Progressive Conservative Party to form the new Conservative Party of Canada. And my hand went up in a heartbeat. My hand was in the air so fast, I said, Mr. President, I would be happy to put that motion forward. And I actually got to fulfill something that this feeling that I was supposed to encourage people to vote. All of a sudden, a very short period of time later, I had the opportunity to put a motion forward at the national level of a Conservative Party, the Canadian Alliance, and actually encourage 175,000 members of a political party to say yes or no to whether they wanted to actually merge the two parties together to form the now Conservative Party of Canada. It was pretty exciting. As you know, we all know how that vote turned out. I also was elected, I was served, as an executive member of the campaign teams in the federal elections of 2004, 2006, 2008, and 2011 federal elections. In 2008 and 2011, I managed the campaigns for two Conservative Party candidates who actually went on to be elected. They actually got elected, and they were members of Parliament. One of them was Stockwell Day, and the other one was Dan Albus, a good friend of mine out in central Okanagan. He is still a member of Parliament with Conservative Party of Canada. I've also been elected and attended all of this Conservative Party of Canada policy conventions. I feel that that's really important that we participate, because we know that political parties are organic. They actually have these policy books, and the way the policy books look is a direct result of who is engaging in the process of helping to form that policy. So as a member of the faith community, I've always felt very strongly that we have a place in those rooms when people get together and start talking about the well-being of others and how we're going to take care of the greater good of society. I've always said, you know what, we as people of faith have some pretty good ideas, and we'd like to put our ideas up against your ideas, and then we'll just see where they all line up. And I'm willing, every single policy convention, they put it all to a vote, and we voted up or voted down, and I've been willing to go with that either way. It's been really exciting, and been happy to be at every single policy convention. I was also asked at that point in time, shortly thereafter, I was asked to actually become the executive assistant to a federal cabinet minister. So pardon me, up until that point, I'd always worked in the volunteer side of things. But at that point in time, I was asked if I would leave the private sector and actually come and work full-time as an assistant to a federal cabinet minister, Minister Day, Stockwell Day. And I served a 5-year term as a employee of the House of Commons, actually is the role that I had. And I actually served in the constituency office, and I had an opportunity to hear from constituents for 5 years. It was fantastic. Every time a constituent wanted a meeting with Stockwell Day, I got to take the call, and it was really fantastic. And I tell you, something else I got to do, which was really exciting, was when I was working with Stockwell Day in his office. He's a federal cabinet minister. He's got all these international obligations, and he's got all these national obligations. And oftentimes he wasn't able to make it back to the riding during the period of time when they had the citizenship ceremonies, where they invite all they welcome all the new Canadians, so all the people who have immigrated to Canada, any asylum seekers who have now gone on the citizen pathway, and they've now getting citizenship in Canada. I had the great honor of sitting in the chair on behalf of Stockwell Day and the government of Canada, and welcoming new Canadians to Canada and handing them their little Canada pin, and they got their citizenship certificate for their first time. And you'd sit out there. I mean, if you've never been to a new Canadian or citizenship ceremony, I encourage you to do it. It is the most exciting thing you could ever imagine. Is you just sit there and you look out over the sea of people in front of you, and they're just this beautiful mosaic of colors and different people types and all these, and they all chose Canada. They all chose Canada, and you get to say welcome on behalf of the government. I tell you, it's the best job I ever had right there. And this one's pretty good too, though. Don't get me wrong. And then I had an opportunity after Stockwell Day moved on. He left politics and moved on to other adventures in life. And I also left, and I went on and I took the role as president of a citizen action organization here in Canada. And my great privilege and exciting honor was, from that point on, was to encourage people of faith to engage in the processes of politics and government. And that's what we've been doing ever since on that front. I still hold that position today. And I also, as you know, currently host this national leadership briefing, and I've been encouraging people to be onboarded into the political process as well. And if you've chosen the Conservative Party of Canada, great. I'll see you at convention. But if you've chosen a different party or whatever, we're nonpartisan here. We're excited about that. But I have lots of experience definitely with the Conservative Party of Canada. So you are right. You are right. There is lots of reasons that I could actually put my name forward as a leadership contestant in the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, here's the thing, is I actually said, like I say, when people first started bringing this to me, I said, yeah, thanks so much, but no, and I dismissed that, but that was wrong. So this is where we're at now. And I just want to lay this out for you so we're real clear. The National Leadership Briefing is a nonpartisan framework here. This is what we're doing. We actually, if we see an opportunity to become activated or to have influence inside of a political party, we definitely take advantage of it, but we do not mill around in partisan activities here on the National Leadership Briefing. So I'm going to say this once, and then we're going to move on and get on with the business here. I am presently praying into this opportunity to expand our influence, yours and mine, into the Conservative Party of Canada as a leadership contestant. Now, I'm asking you to pray with me. If you would pray that God would lead on this, I would never, ever, ever step out on something like this. And I had no intentions, and I have no intentions right now of doing it. But if God leads in that direction, I am happy to hear from him. And I am welcoming the opportunity to submit to that call and go ahead and do it. But I want you to pray with me, because I'm going to pray into it, and you pray into it, and then let's just keep walking down the road. Let's not let this get in our way and get all muddled up and mucked up in the weeds about this, because this is the kind of thing that can derail a lot of our attention if it isn't something that I'm supposed to be doing. So you pray, I'll pray, and then we're just going to keep walking forward, okay? Keep moving forward. Let's not get stuck, all right? Okay, so that's enough of that then for now. And what I'll do is I will bring up later on as to how we're going to separate the partisan activities that may come out of action in the future, and how we're going to keep it separate from the National Leadership Briefing. Okay, but here we go. We got to take a quick break here. I want to show you this other 50-second video. I love this video. I love showing this video all the time. And then when I come back here, I'm going to be in the boardroom, and we're going to get started, because I got to show you Max Influence Plan 2020. I'm excited to bring it out for you. Okay, God bless. Stick with us. We'll see you in the boardroom. Okay, it's good to be back in the boardroom. You know, this is one of my favorite places on the National Leadership Briefing. I love it here. This is where we get to drill, train, work, learn. All these great things happen here. I'm going to try and make it as exciting for you as it is for me today as well. Okay, before we get on to the things that you need to know on the road ahead, I just want to finish up what I was saying before back at my desk. I'm going to send you a copy of a rather interesting document. It's an Angus Reid poll that was done in December. Now, the poll talks about what's going on inside the Conservative Party, what the members are talking about, what their views are on various issues, what their views are on different leadership possibilities there. So I want to send this out to you because it's actually a pretty interesting read. But just keep in mind that there is kind of a combination of good information mixed in with a little propaganda, mixed in with a little bit of leading, I mean, just try to keep your mind open, whatever. I'm not sending this out to swing you one way or the other on any particular issue, but it is Angus Reid, and they do good survey work, and it's a really good piece of literature. So I'll send it out in the post-briefing notes so you can have a look at it there. Okay, now let's get on to what you need to know on the road ahead for 2020. Now, when I say need to know, It doesn't mean that everything that you need to know is going to be put on this board behind me. But when it comes to the National Leadership Briefing, I want to lay down the rails that much of our thought and understanding is going to be dedicated to in 2020, because when we get to the max influence plan for 2020, you're going to see we have significant opportunities to have a significant amount of influence on some very critical decisions in our country. And I don't want you to miss a single one. I want you to maximize the influence that you're going to have in these decisions. And so we're going to be laser focused on how to do that on the road ahead. But where does it all start? So what you need to know moving forward, first of all, is you need to fully understand with every fiber of your being and your head, your heart, you need to understand the 4 pillars. You need to know the 4 pillars. Why the 4 pillars? Why are we always talking about that? Why do we rally around the belief, the common belief that a parent has the right to raise their children the way they want? Why do we want to make sure that everyone's real clear on that we meet, that we all believe in that? And why do we all come together? Well, that's what you're going to learn on the National Leadership Briefing by joining us every single month. If you are new to the briefing, I have said this before, missing a briefing is definitely something you can do. You can definitely do that. You can definitely show up on a February briefing and come back on an April briefing and maybe leave it until June and do all that. But what the briefing is designed to be structurally is every single briefing is a brick. And the very next briefing is a brick we're going to lay on top of that brick. And then we're going to lay another brick on that. And we're building the foundation of something here. So if you are not able to be on a briefing, then definitely watch the video that you receive after the briefing. We always send out the full video after, and you don't want to miss a piece of the wall we're putting together here. The foundation is got to be made up of bricks. We can't cover it all in one briefing, so we do it bit by bit. So if you want to have a full understanding of the 4 pillars and learn them in the proper way, then you want to show up at every single briefing. Now, you may not get it right away. People have said that all the time. Doug, I just stopped after the second briefing because I didn't get it. Well, you know what? You missed the third one. The third one might have been the one where the light goes up over your head and all of a sudden you're understanding, wait a second, I am here to learn the 4 pillars for this reason. So let's go over real quick here. A parent has a right to raise their children the way they want. We believe that. All of us do. If we get 100,000, 200, 300,000 people in a room that all believe that, there is combined influence in that we can then move within the political spectrum and within government realms. We can actually move that around and advance this idea that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. The second pillar is that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Can you imagine if all of us set aside everything that we all the differences we had, and we just rallied around that one, that a common belief that I'm not going to elect anybody unless they make a commitment to respect and defend my right of belief, my right to believe what I believe as a person of faith. They also have to respect my freedom of religion, that I choose my religion, that you cannot choose my religion for me as an elected representative. You cannot pass punitive laws that actually work against me in religion. I'm definitely going to require you, if I'm going to vote for you, to respect my right of belief and freedom of religion and defend it when it is the critical moment in time to do so. If somebody comes at me, whether it's legislatively or whether it's in the streets, and says, I'm attacking your right of belief, I expect you to stand up and say something. It's not okay for you to sit passively aside and sit in your chair in the House of Commons, or you're in your chair in the House of the legislatures across Canada, or even in municipal governments or school boards. If somebody attacks my freedom of religion or my right of belief, you better say something if you're my elected representative. So that is the second pillar. The third pillar is that when you pass laws or enact policies as an elected officials, that those laws and policies must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. Now, why is that so critical? I mean, goodness, the vulnerable people within our communities That's the heartbeat. That's our heartbeat. That's what we're here for. We are here to find those that are wounded on the road, as I always say, between Jerusalem and Jericho. It's the Good Samaritan. It's what Jesus told us to do, is that if we find somebody injured on the road between Jerusalem and Jericho, we're supposed to pour oil and water on them, take whatever we have on us and apply it to them and take care of them and lift them up and put them on our animal and carry them to the next town and help them get set up in an inn. And, really interestingly on that one there, if you'll notice at the end of the Good Samaritan, if you go to Luke 10, chapter starting in verse 25 right through to 37, there when the Good Samaritan takes that person on his animal and then takes him next town and goes to the innkeeper and says, here's my money, pulls out his own cash and says, take care of this guy and I'm going to come back and check on you. What he was actually doing was he was setting policy for how that individual was going to be cared for in that moment in time. So we can learn a little bit from that. We have a responsibility to actually enact policy on how to care for the vulnerable. That's the third pillar, is making sure that when they pass things like euthanasia laws, are euthanasia laws really designed right now to protect the vulnerable among us? They're not. They definitely need to be amended, reviewed, considered, reconsidered before you go expanding euthanasia eligibility to include children and the mentally ill, which is the conversation that's going on right now. We better make sure, first of all, that we haven't actually put vulnerable people at risk in our communities already by the existing laws. So that's the third pillar, is that laws and policies provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And of course, the fourth pillar is that it is inappropriate for civil government to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. That is happening at an alarming rate right now. There is no way that we are going to be able to pay with our taxes today the burden of debt that is being heaped upon the backs of our children right now. So you count on it that your children are going to be born into the role of bond servant of civil government. That's just the way it is, unless we all come together. 1, 2, 300,000, 500,000, how many? Pick a number. How many people can we get in a room that all stand up together and say, stop? We're going to tap the brakes on spending. We're going to tap the brakes on government debt. We're going to tap the brakes on you burying our kids in debt and putting the yoke of excessive taxation on them before they're even born. That's what the 4 pillars are all about. So what we do is we come to the National Leadership Briefing and we learn those 4 pillars. And then we drill and train the 4 pillars. This is the best part about it as well, is it's one thing to know the 4 pillars, but you got to walk around in society out there. You got to walk the streets of our country, and people are going to come up and challenge you and say, you're a person of faith. Well, hey, wait a second. You believe this, you believe this. And you go, wait a second. No, I'll tell you what I believe. Then we're going to teach you how to actually articulate your views in a way that gathers support around your ideas. We're not, in other words, have you ever been confronted for being this, that, and the other thing? And you go, wait a second, that's not me at all. And then you're kind of tripping over your own words, trying to figure out how to explain to the person what our views are on different issues. We're going to drill and train here on the National Leadership Briefing so you learn how to articulate your views in a way that just doesn't, I'm not looking to justify them with anybody, but we're there to gather support around our ideas. We believe our ideas are good. So how do we express them in a way that gathers support around the ideas? That's why we come on the National Leadership Briefing, to drill and train. And then, of course, the all-important one, which I'm going to stress today because this is really critical in 2020 that you get this, because this is an opportunity. I'm telling you, this is the biggest opportunity that I've seen in 20 years of being aware that we actually had influence. This opportunity ahead of us, if you share the National Leadership Briefing and we gather together the necessary numbers to a level of critical mass where we can have influence on this road immediately in front of us, there is going to be significant changes in Canada for the good. I'm telling you, we are going to be able to participate in a way that's going to show all of the people out there that we got some good ideas. That's our goal. No one's looking to take over. Like, if anybody gets that in their head right now, that there's, okay, this is great because we can get all these people together and take over. No. The role is that we want our ideas to be placed on the platform with all the other ideas and let them compete. Trust me, they'll do fine out there on their own. We don't have to ram them down anybody's throat. They produce positive outcomes for people, so we don't have to actually force them on anybody, but we do have to, if we want them considered among the mix of other ideas out there, we're going to have to get enough people together to learn what they are, what are our ideas, and how do we articulate them and share them, okay? So that's the 4 pillars we're going to talk about. That's what you need to know on the road ahead. Okay, now I want to turn to max influence here. This is max influence. Now, before I do that, I've got to show you this video again. Now, this is a video that I've shown on every briefing in the last 4 months. And you know what? I'm going to show it on every briefing for the next 8 months, because this is such an important thing that we need to understand about what's happening here in Canada. So what happened was, I'm just going to set it up real quickly here. For those of you who've seen it before, you know what I'm about to say. But this is a video that is a real brief exchange between a pastor and a member of parliament who was a candidate in the last election. So this is a candidate, he's sitting on a panel with a whole bunch of candidates, and they're sitting in front of a church, and the pastor is asking the question about whether or not, if you are elected, if you, the candidate, are elected, are you going to allow me to say the things that I believe are represent my views and values? Can I speak in a way that is representative of what I believe to be true, my right of belief? Are you going to respect it? And what's interesting about this is, listen very closely to this candidate's response, because this candidate, what he actually does is it makes it sound like he's all about freedom of religion and freedom of speech. But listen to what he says about the laws that he passes that aren't going to permeate the walls of the church. Listen to what he says about how you can do whatever you want inside your church, but what he's really saying is you can do whatever you want inside, but don't bring it outside. It's really, really a good representation. I'm going to play it every time. It doesn't get any better than this as far as really revealing what's in the minds of some of these people. By the way, this is an elected official now too, because that person was reelected. Here's the video right now. I'll turn it over to, and we'll come back and talk about it for a little bit.
Okay, Randeep. Sure. Freedom of religion is enshrined, as I said, in the Charter, and I will protect the right of a faith-based group to practice their faith freely in their own church or place of worship as they please. And I think our laws do not penetrate the walls of a church, and you're free to do that. However, I will not change the laws of or go into the bedrooms of people and choose who they want to love. But you would have every freedom to preach to your congregation based on your faith, and so are other congregations allowed to do the same. And that is protected in the Charter, and that will be protected, and I will always stand by that right. We've never gone into churches and told them how they should practice their faith.
So did you catch that? Did you hear what he said? And I got to say, I want to remind everybody, I don't play this video because I want to vilify this individual or make an enemy out of him. This is really representative of the view of many elected officials at all levels of government right now. I mean, this is something that we have to acknowledge that we're up against. You know, when I talk about laying out max influence 2020 here, it's not a matter of us sitting back and just saying, well, it's if I want to have extra influence on top of the influence I already have, then I'll listen to Doug and the National Leadership Briefing about the max influence plan. No, I'm talking about there is a group of people that are actively involved politically and governmentally in Canada who are actually trying to limit or control the amount of influence you have. They're trying to reduce the amount of influence they have. They're trying to place you inside of your houses of worship, and they're trying to entomb you under or bury or entrap you under laws that will keep you, if you don't mind me using the expression, neutered there inside your house of worship. In other words, it's the kids' table of all kids' tables. It's like, yeah, okay, we're going to feed you once in a while, but you have no authority. Sit down and shut up. And so some people think that I'm actually being overly dramatic, but start listening out there in the street. I just played you one video. I hear it all the time, but start listening now. Take what I just said now and start listening to the elected representatives and ask yourself, does this person really believe that it's okay that I walk the streets of Canada and that I have the free, that it's okay with him or her that I can articulate my views and express my views about my religion or my beliefs. Does this individual believe that, or would they really rather I just get entombed inside my church and talk amongst myself with my Christian bigot friends or whatever it is that they think we are, right? So I just want to play that for you, because when I tell you now about Max Influence 2020, it's not to increase influence, it's to preserve and increase influence, because we are having our influence stripped away from us, just so you know. Okay, so exciting days ahead. Max Influence 2020, all this opportunity out there ahead of us, and we want to make sure that we're capitalizing on that opportunity. So I'm going to remind those people who have been on the National Leadership Briefing for a while about how we expand our influence. And I'm going to share with the new people on the briefing today something you've never heard before. So this is going to be kind of exciting both ways, because you're either practicing or you're learning something new. But this is the 4 steps of influence here at the National Leadership Briefing. The first one, we always stress, it starts with you. You as an individual, you have influence. When you go into a voting booth and you look at the candidates' names in front of you, you are exercising your influence by casting a vote. Now, the trick, though, is with you and your influence is that as a person of faith, you want to make sure that the influence that you wield is actually aligned with God's view of whatever it is that you're deciding on. In other words, the worst thing you could do is get into a voting booth and have your head all screwed on wrong about an issue like euthanasia, and think you're actually aligning your views and values with a candidate's views and values on an issue. But what you're really doing is you're not checking first to make sure your views are aligned with that individual. Your views aren't aligned with God's views. So how do we double check to make sure your views and values are aligned with God's? Well, we have asked, and I don't want to get anybody bent out of shape here, but we've asked for the pastors and the leaders of the nation to stand up and help us out as individuals. We've asked the pastors to, when citizens have issues of the day that they have to draw down judgments on, like there's all sorts of them out there. There's euthanasia, education, abortion, prostitution, human trafficking. What does God have to say about all of these issues? Help us to understand, because we're going to go out there and evaluate all of these candidates based on what God's views are, and we want to make sure we're aligned before we go looking for somebody thinking that we're doing the right thing by picking that person. We want to make sure we're aligned first and know what our own views are. So pastors and leaders in the nation, please step up and say, okay, maybe I didn't want to talk about abortion before, but I'm going to need to now. I'm going to need to actually start talking about it, because people are depending on me to actually help them align their views with God's views. Okay. The second thing is that we've actually encouraged people, once your views are aligned, is to help other people actually align their views. And the way we do that is we have something called civic affairs committees. And what came out of the National Leadership Briefing this past year is that we had all sorts of churches that within their own churches and places of worship, they said, you know what? It's completely legal for us to actually put together a group of people and do nonpartisan political work. And they get together and they take a look at the issues, and they all of the people in the church that have an interest in this area can come together and support the pastor or the leader by helping them know the issues of the day within a civic affairs committee. And we even had some churches actually even went so far as to help other churches set up their civic affairs committees. And some people, which has been fantastic, and I'll give you some information on this again, is actually went so far as to establish websites to actually help churches establish these civic affairs committees within their churches across the nation. And that's Civic Affairs Committees Canada. We're going to make sure we get that website out to you as well, again, so you can see all the resources and help that they can provide you as a member of a church, help set up a committee that will support your pastor in understanding the issues of the day and look for those opportunities where you can have influence. Also, SOI stands for spheres of influence. Once you're aligned with God's views and values, you're helping other people align themselves with God's views and values in your church. Now you're taking a look at your sphere of influence, all of the people you touch all the time in society, as you're walking down the street, your friends, your family, your coworkers, all these other people, and how you can effectively grow support around your ideas so that you can gather together basically like it's a small network of people so that you can actually increase your overall influence. If you've got, for example, 100 people on an email list and you're all saying, yep, we all believe in a parent's right to raise their kids the way they want, then that is a lot more influence than just you flying your one flag out there on its own. So that's increasing your spheres of influence. And of course, to help and support you in that is the National Leadership Briefing, which is here because you're going to go out there and say, well, how do I do this, Doug? How do I civic affairs committees and increasing my influence and my spheres of influence? And how do I do all that? Well, all you have to do is just remember, share the National Leadership Briefing with people, and then we'll send them the link out. You can actually get them to register. And now all of a sudden, every single month for 1 hour, you're all hearing the same thing at the same time. And you can follow up after and have a good conversation about what you just learned. Okay, so that's the civic affairs committees, in growing your sphere of influence, and then referring people to National Leadership Briefing. That is the Max Influence Plan 2020. Now, what is that going to do, and why is 2020 at the end of that? Because we could always do that before. Well, take a look at what's happening out there right now. Look at this. We have political parties out there. Liberal, NDP, PPC, CPC. You got all these political parties this year. They're all going to be having policy conventions. They're all going to be getting together in a room, and they're all going to be deciding, this is what they decide, what do we believe? That's the big question. What do we believe? They're going to put their policy book down on the table, and they're all going to vote on what they believe. And when these happen, all these different policy conventions, when these happen, we want to, if we've been doing this, we're going to be in a position in a nonpartisan way, because we're going to teach generalities. You decide which party you're in, by the way. I'm not going to tell you to go out and join any of these parties. What I'm saying is that you decide what it is, but as the opportunities come up and you feel called to go in a certain direction, then you will go into that situation and exercise your influence with your network of people. And we're going to teach you how to do that. That's what we do here on the National Leadership Briefing. So all of these parties you can have influence in. Okay, now, there is a special set of circumstances that I mentioned in the beginning of the briefing today, where one of the parties is actually having a leadership contest as well. And there is definitely going to be an opportunity there for you to have influence, and I mean significant influence, on the outcome of that particular conversation that's going on. So remember that. There are special circumstances as well. And there might be other leadership contests that come up in other parties as well, but we're going to let you know. Every single time there's an opportunity out there, we're always going to let you know. Okay, so let's move on. We got one last thing I want to talk about today, and then I'm going to close at my desk. Operation Engage. I told you that we were going to talk about Operation Engage today, but you know what? The first thing that we see here is the location of Operation Engage is not here. It's definitely something that's coming, but it's not going to happen here at the National Leadership Briefing. And the reason it's not going to happen here, because it is a conversation that deals specifically with that opportunity we were talking about to have influence within the Conservative Party of Canada. So Operation Engage, in that conversation, just to clarify, is not going to happen at the National Leadership Briefing. It's going to happen at another website, and we're going to be sharing that information with you at the end of, or at the beginning of the next briefing, so you can actually go to the other website and you can get the information there. But that's critical, again, that we maintain the nonpartisan posture here at the National Leadership Briefing and make sure that our partisan activities occur elsewhere. The second thing I want to discuss with you here, I just want to share with you so that you understand what it is that we can do once we all get together, is I want to go over quickly the purpose of this Operation Engage. Here at the National Leadership Briefing, you'll hear me say this once, twice, all the time. You'll hear me say that civil government, which is established by processes that are political, has the power to make decisions that are going to influence the lives of our neighbor and our nation in either a positive or a negative way. I'm going to say that again. Civil government, like federal government, provincial government, municipal governments, which they are all established by processes that are political, like elections and leadership conventions and things like that. But they have, once they're established, they have the power to make decisions that are either going to negatively or positively influence the life of our neighbor. And we are called to care about that, our neighbor. We're called to care about the positive or negative outcomes in their lives. And so we are entitled, we're called, we're mandated to actually participate in those processes. Now, the reason why Operation Engage, the purpose, is important for us to know is that what I've got here is I've got the reason why we need to engage is because they're about to decide in the road ahead on all these policy conventions about policies that are going to actually impact the lives of our neighbor. They're also going to decide in one particular party about the leadership. And oftentimes a political party will follow the nose of the leader. We saw that happen just recently with what we used to know as a neoclassical style kind of liberal party in Canada. We got a new leader of the party, and that party took a very hard shift. It took a very hard shift in a very different direction. And the reason why I know that is because I talked to all of these disaffected former Liberal Party members who are constantly, pining about the good old days. The good old days when they were centrist, kind of a more center-left Liberal Party, and now they're just getting sort of yanked hard off in a different direction. Well, that is what's happening inside all these parties all the time. They're constantly moving around. But when you get a new leader in there, it can take the whole party in a very different direction. So that's the purpose for us establishing Operation Engage, to respond to that specific situation inside the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, the third thing is the goals and objectives. I want to tell you the goals and objectives here, but we're not going to discuss them in any detail again because I don't want to get into the partisan processes. But here, these are the goals. You tell me if you think that this is a fair and sound plan for engaging in this next opportunity that we have. The number one goal in Operation Engage is to open a dialogue with Conservative Party members on the issues that matter most to us as members in the faith communities of Canada. In other words, we are following our heart on the 4 pillars. We're seeing an opportunity where we can raise these issues with Conservative Party members on the things that are important to us. And it is our number one goal, in fact, in an objective in Operation Engage. The second goal is to share with Conservative Party of Canada members our perspective on leadership platform priorities. In other words, they're going to have a leadership contest within the Conservative Party of Canada. We want to actually set up a platform where we can say this platform that we have established is representative of the priorities we have. So you've got all of these candidates that are going to stand up on one side here, and they're going to say, hi, my name is this, and hi, my name is that. And they're going to lay out all their platforms. Well, we're going to put a platform up of our own, and it's going to be one that represents our views and values as people of faith. The third goal of Operation Engage is to identify the common ground that we share with Conservative Party of Canada members on the issues of the day. I believe that there is a great misrepresentation about our views and our perspectives, and I believe there's a lot of common ground that we actually share between the existing Conservative Party of Canada members and our faith community. So I want to actually identify the common ground within Project Operation Engage, and I want to be able to build on that. So let's review quick here. The first 1, 2, and 3 before we get to 4. Okay, first goal is to open a dialogue with Conservative Party members on the issues that matter most to us as members of the faith communities in Canada. The second goal is to share with Conservative Party members our perspective on leadership platform priorities. So we're going to actually set up a platform that represents our views and values. The third one is that we're going to identify the common ground that we have between us. We're going to gather support around the ideas and clear up any misunderstandings. And then the fourth goal is to raise awareness within that party of the priorities of party, that there are priorities of party members that are also members of the faith community of Canada. In other words, as we move forward, we're going to identify where the synergies are. It's just not common ground. It's like, what then can we do together in the way of advancing policy ideas and focusing on these platform ideas, platform priorities as well. So we are actually now putting everything, as we come together, we communicate, we grow, open a dialogue, have a conversation, find the common ground, and move forward together. That's the whole plan of Operation Engage. But again, it's not happening here. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing all the mobilization here, but we are going to have to set up that separate website, which is going to be on the side where we're going to have all these conversations. So that's what you can expect to see coming up. And we're going to actually be launching that from here, though, kind of kicking it out the door, though. We're actually going to kick it out the side door of the National Leadership Briefing. And then we're going to show you where you can go to get all of this information so you can follow along through this 2020 process that's happening within that political party. Now, we're going to do that with probably all the parties, just so you know. This is the prototype. This is the beginning of something that we can apply anywhere. If you're called out there right now inside of another political party, then feel free to do it. Feel free to use everything that we teach here, all of the principles, all of the strategies. Feel free to use whatever you want, because I'm not going to tell you you're in the wrong party. I'm not going to, because I don't believe I think everyone's called to be in a specific place at a specific time, and you're the best judge of that. So I'm going to help you, serve you with the principles that you need. If you want to grow your influence wherever you are, if you're a mother or a father in your community association, you can use these same principles to grow influence and gather support around you for the ideas that you believe are important to you. So anyway, that is where we're going to leave it for now. I hope that was helpful. I hope you find that exciting. And as we look at the road ahead, we've got a lot of exciting opportunities ahead of us. So we're going to do our very best to serve you, to maximize your influence. Now, let me go back to the desk here, and then I'm going to close real quick, and I want to share this book with you because I think you're going to like it. Okay. God bless. We'll talk soon. Well, thank you so much for your time in the boardroom today. That was fantastic. I just love serving you there. I really do. And I just pray that everything that we go over there is a seed sown, and that if it's not something that is usable in your hands today, perhaps it will be usable in your hands in a very short period of time, and you'll feel comfortable there sharing it with others. So thank you so much again for your attention in the boardroom. I promised you that I was going to close today with just sharing an author with you and some work that he has done. There's obviously so many people out there that are doing great work, but this particular man has done such a great job about really for us at the National Leadership Briefing. I really believe that his work is aligned with ours. So I wanted to share you, first of all, he wrote a book a little while ago. His name is Don Hutchinson. He wrote a book called Under Siege. And this is an excellent book. Again, you'll have the links to this so you can pick up this book. This was his first book. And it's a book that really lays out 150 years of religious freedom here in Canada. So it gives you just kind of a background on where we've come from that really helps us understand where we're at and perhaps where we're heading to. But just recently, Don published another book, which is equally, if not better, and that is Church in Society. And this, let me just read this of what Willard Metzger said this about this book, and it's really accurate. It says, Don Hutchinson provides a sound rationale for the importance of Christian participation in helping shape a shared society focused on the common good. He extols Christian motivation, disapproves apathetic disinterest, and provides a practical guide for Christian engagement with public policy. This book is a tool that I believe in your hands will be proven valuable. So I'm going to provide a link for this. And thank you, Don, for the work that you're doing. And I look forward. And I guess I should probably just for full transparency disclosure, I really like this guy. I mean, this author, forget about what he does in the way of writing great books. He's actually a great guy too. So I'm a little biased right off the top, but this is something that I think you're going to benefit from having. So anyway, hope that helps. Thank you so much for your time today. And we just look so forward to seeing you next month for the February briefing. We know that we have all these opportunities in front of us. We know we need to prepare, and we're looking forward to serving you on the road ahead, helping you have the maximum influence that you could possibly have in the decisions that are about to be made. So in the meantime, though, we want to that God would bless you, and we want to pray that God would continue to bless your family. And of course, we want God to always bless this great nation of Canada. Thanks so much again for your time. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.